Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Rivers Tuesday. I'm Maggie here with John Teague. How are you, John Teague?
Doing pretty well. How are you, Maggie?
I'm pretty good. Got my nice warm coffee here.
Yes, and you're cradling it in your hands. Yes.
So cozy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a nasty rainy day. It's another spitty mist day.
Oh, spitty mist. Is it spitting mist outside right now?
It's the outside is it's thinking about doing that.
Yes. Yeah. But spring has sprung. I mean, it's starting to happen, right? Like
really
things are greening up and
yes.
leaves are coming out on the trees. The spring flowers are coming. I love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It's very fun. And the yellow pollen is coating everything outside.
Wow. Yes.
All right. Speaking of things you're enjoying, tell us some more things you're enjoying lately.
What am I enjoying lately? Okay. I have been watching The House of David on Amazon Prime.
Yes, I've heard of this.
And I have really been enjoying that. And I don't know. It's just fascinating to see someone's vision of how it might have looked, what it might have been like, as they read the stories from the Old Testament or just from the Bible in general. You think about The Chosen, and I know people probably have opinions all over the place on that stuff, but for me, it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
And so when the character who plays David, and this is when he's younger, this is before he's king and before the whole season is like leading up to him slaying Goliath. And so there's a lot about his youth that, we just sort of have to imagine. And when he was playing his instrument and singing, it was like, oh, that might have been what these Psalms sounded like. And so cool. Just very different because, it's not like what Jesse leads us in, on Sunday mornings, as great as that is. It's not that kind of melody, It wasn't that kind of music,
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so that has just been really cool. And I think especially to me, because I'm really enjoying the Psalms, and I have been spending a year in the Psalms. And so I'll finish, I think I started it in May, and so I'll finish in May. And I just am loving that as my devotional time in the mornings. And so as I'm watching The House of David and I'm reading these Psalms, I'm thinking about these words and what the melody might have sounded like and how you might sing this. So I don't know. That's been really enjoying that.
So it's similar to The Chosen, but about David.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. And it's really well done.
Okay.
How does one
find these episodes?
How does one find this? Well, I think that if you have Amazon Prime subscription, then it's out there on Prime Video.
Okay.
And it's just called The House of David. Yeah.
Great.
Very interesting. And wow, it is, it's intense. The battle scenes are intense.
Yeah.
And then some of the stuff that King Saul goes through when God removes his spirit from him, and now he's sort of tormented by this darkness that you can read about in the Bible. It really it's pretty intense.
Wow.
And you're just thinking, wow, what if it did kind of look like that?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. All right, tell me something else, like not serious, just some like a food or like a snack.
You're like,
or just something
thanks,
very
John.
silly. No, that was
the
great.
Bible, but seriously, I just wanted to know if there was like a snack you like.
No, that was great. I wanted like a full gamut across the board.
Oh man, what I'm enjoying right now is some salsa that Liz Graves made me.
It's always chips and salsa. Who's surprised?
Listen, on the border chips,
those are good.
Hope and Katie came home the other day from the store with this like jalapeno lime version of these chips that kind of tasted like Cool Ranch Doritos, but they were tortilla chips, and they go really well with this hot salsa that Liz Graves gave me recently. So that's something I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah. What about have you had the Cantina style chips?
Yes.
Those are amazing.
Yeah.
The ones from Walmart, I don't know what brand they are, but they're like very greasy.
Oh.
And they're delicious.
Not the on the border Cantina style.
I'm trying to picture the bag. I think they're on the border.
Okay.
Are these greasy?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't, there are some greasy ones. Do you know who has really greasy chips? Chili's.
Yes, those
Yeah.
they're like shimmering.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you, but at Chili's, you've got to get, and I don't even remember the last time I went to Chili's. I was probably with Caleb Jones. But you get ranch dressing with the salsa and the chips, and for whatever reason that combo is really good.
Is it better than the Chewy's combo with their jalapeno
it's not
situation?
better than that.
No,
not better than that. No.
All right, Jesse has pulled up Tostitos Cantina. That's not what I have in mind. Although those do look delicious. I'm speaking about something else. Yep, the on the border. Okay, I was so wrong. Cafe style on the border chips are delicious.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Those are good.
Tell me something you're enjoying.
Okay, this is what came to mind, so I just got to go with it. On Saturdays, Jake makes pancakes, and they're delicious, and I enjoy them in that moment. But what's my very favorite is like a few days later, I will warm some of the leftover pancakes up.
Yes.
And also get a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips.
Ooh.
And I will take a bite of the leftover pancake and put one chocolate chip in my mouth. And it's the perfect chocolate to pancake ratio.
Okay.
And it's delicious.
One bite, one
chip. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It's so good. It's almost better than like the fresh pancake with the syrup and butter and all that. It's delicious. Also, we watched Mufasa. And that was so good.
Really?
Yes.
So Hope was, our middle daughter, Hope was wishing that we could watch that as a family soon.
Yes,
so.
It's on Disney+.
Okay.
It was very good. And my children, like, we watched it with them and they like let me watch it and I was like into it. It was really good. Yes, the music's good. Like, it's just good.
Hey, tell me this. I'm changing the subject from Mufasa, but I want to see this. It made me think about like just watching things and movies and screens, and some people may have given things up like that for Lent, and it made me think about Lent and like how your practices might be going as we are, whatever, more than halfway through Lent.
Yeah. They're going good. I decided to not to shop and buy stuff, and that has been something I've actually been really enjoying.
Really?
I just feel like so free. And I think it's been a really good exercise in like delayed gratification, because there's been like 2 or 3 things that Jake and I have been like, we could use this, and we both just know like, well, we're not gonna get that right now. Like, even though we do need a new outdoor rug for our patio, like the one that we have is like completely covered in dirt from our children, and like the pressure washer will not get it out, which is another thing I've been enjoying. Pressure washing is very satisfying.
It can be. Yes.
Anyways, the pressure washer didn't cut it on the rug, so we were like, we need a new rug, and it was like, well, we're gonna wait and it's gonna be okay
until he rises from the grave.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that
He
rug.
has risen and we've got a new rug.
But that practice of like delayed gratification and even like thinking longer through purchases that we're gonna make, and like, do we really need this? Will we be okay without it? And then just the freedom from like browsing and all of that has just been like, I just feel much clearer and much like more content, because I don't have all this stuff, like all these possible purchases are not like floating around in my head. I just feel more content with what I do have.
Oh, can I just confess, this is like a little engage the heart moment.
All right.
That I am envious of you right now. Like, I've thought about you a couple times when I bought some things during Lent, and as you described the freedom that you've been enjoying, I have been bound, a prisoner in chains, do the things that I want, that I think will make me happy.
Yes.
And I'm like being like sort of joking, but like kind of serious too. Like that sounds awesome. I love that, and I'm proud of you and Jake for doing that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I just definitely want to like think through, how to not just like immediately go back into old habits. So I'm considering like, maybe I don't need the Amazon app on my phone. Like, that's probably too fast and too easy. Like, if we decide there's something we want to purchase, like, we can slow that process down by like getting out our laptop or like making sure we really want it, you know, instead of it just being like, oh, I accidentally in the middle of the night decided I wanted this thing and purchased it in the morning. I hardly even remember doing it. I've done that a few times where like the next day I like realized like, oh, I made a purchase in the middle of the night. We need to talk about this. Anyways, yes, I'm enjoying that. What about you? Are there any Lent practices that you're enjoying? How's fasting going?
Well, fasting on Wednesdays, and I'm just continuing to learn that I'm not good at it.
Same.
And in particular, last Wednesday, I think I'd had a couple of Wednesdays that were intentional, and then last Wednesday I was just powering through and didn't stop and pause and kind of make that day more prayerful. And I'm thinking right now, I'm so thankful for Paul and Jenny Heine and their testimony about fasting several weeks ago that we showed during the sermon, because they talked about how they simplify. Jenny said this, like, I simplify those days when I'm fasting. And I did not do that this past Wednesday. And it definitely went by, and I just didn't eat, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, I think maybe that just goes to show, like, hey, we're not going to hit home runs every time we swing the bat, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't get back up there again and try again, you know? And I just think about, like, wow, the powerful testimony of Sammy on Sunday, just talking about fasting and what the Lord has been showing her, and then just being healed from that skin disease that was going on.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, me and Jake keep reminding each other on those days. You know, there'll be moments where it's like, this is great. Like, I really feel near to the Lord, or like, I get why I'm doing this. But then you also have those afternoons where you're like, this was terrible, you know? And we just like have been reminding each other, like, it's still doing something, even if we can't see it today.
Yeah.
And just remembering, like, yeah, like maybe you will have this just like life-changing epic moment with the Lord. But even if you don't, trusting that like he's still working in and through that, even if it's not like really obvious what the fruit of it is yet.
Yeah.
It will come. All right, let's talk about Sunday. So we had worship together this past Sunday, and it was a really sweet day. What were some of the things that stuck out to you from that morning?
Well, I'm often right there on the front row for baptisms, and I love that front row seat. And I'm so thankful that Guy Shelton, shout out to Guy, for helping us get our camera hooked up to where we could kind of like put the baptisms on the screen. And, you know, which it's a hard thing to do, like to set that up and tear that down and get all that the way it needs to be a mobile church, right? So he spent a lot of time on that with Jesse, and very thankful for that, so everybody could see what was going on in the baptismal tank. But I got a front row seat, and I was looking at some pictures this morning of one of those baptisms that I took on my phone, because I was just so captured by the look on the faces of the mom and dad as they baptized their son, and the sheer joy and delight on their faces as they stood over him and spoke to him and prayed over him and then baptized him. That is a look on their face, is a look that every child longs to see in their parents, and every child longs to see that. Every child of God longs to see that in the face of God, and so I just was. I was really just enjoying reflecting on that this morning. So that was one of my favorite things about the morning. Yeah,
that was really sweet. I loved Sarah getting baptized. One of my favorite moments was watching her children look at her, and watching them just like take that moment in. And her and I were talking about how like they're so little, yet they could so clearly, you could see on their face that like they got that something special and something significant was happening, and they were just taking that in. And so that was just beautiful to see how that moment was powerful for Sarah, powerful for our whole church family, but like really you could just tell that was like a significant moment in the life of their family as a whole.
Absolutely.
And how beautiful that was.
And I'm so proud of her, and that was a bold, courageous thing, and frankly not like a planned thing. It was somewhat spontaneous, though I know that the Lord had been speaking to her about it. She had been praying and considering it, but it wasn't like she was on the list, you know, and scheduled to be baptized. It was like, no, this needs to happen.
Yes.
And so she came on Sunday ready, and I knew that it was a possibility. And when she said, I'm ready, I was like, let's do this.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that she did. And I just want to say this. I just said what was on my mind before her baptism. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that baptism isn't just for children. Yes. I want to make sure that we as a church family understand that, because I said this on Sunday, but I want to say it right here again. There may be adults who are sitting all around us. There may be adults who are listening right now. They don't have a baptism story. They didn't grow up in that tradition, or they've been coming around church. They've been growing in their faith and understanding of the gospel, but they've never drove a stake into the ground and said, this is real. Yes. And I have decided to follow Jesus and be baptized. And I don't want them thinking well, that would be embarrassing, right? Because now everyone's going to think, well, wait, you weren't a Christian? I just want to stomp on that right now.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. We celebrate. We're not evaluating.
Yes.
We're celebrating.
Yes. Yeah, that's
good. And so, I just think that Sarah modeled something beautiful for us. And so I said that on Sunday, and here's what was so cool. And she shared it later in her testimony, but that was what she needed to hear.
Yep.
Because in that moment, the enemy was trying to tell her, you are such a fool.
Yes.
Why are you doing this? Everyone's going to evaluate you.
Yes.
And that is not true. That's a lie from the enemy. And so the Lord just teed all that up.
Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And that's the same lie he is probably whispering to other people, is that that would be embarrassing and you're a fool, but that's could not be more false. So we just want to say no, there's no room for that lie, because it is so worth celebrating, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I was telling Sarah too, that is a very specific answer to a very specific prayer we have prayed. I can remember where I was sitting when I told all of our life group leaders, let's pray for adult baptisms specifically. That's what we want to see God doing. That's what we want to see more of, because it's so powerful and such a beautiful picture of what he's doing. All right, what else happened on Sunday? You got an encouraging text that I feel kind of wrapped up the morning really beautifully.
Oh, man.
Share that with us.
I love this. I got this text on Monday morning, just saying the time of testimony yesterday was powerful. A prisoner set free from addiction, healing from a skin disease, freedom to the captives, baptism out of the curse laid on her. The blind are seeing. Paul sharing about he and his brother. He says, Aslan is on the move. I'm looking and praying for that testimony to grow courage and faith in others. Looking for more of that. And then tying this into the picture from our prayer watch, and just the fire growing, just praying for sparks and flames to rise up, and for the fire to grow, and for the Holy Spirit to move. That text was so encouraging to me, and it so beautifully captured what we saw on display that we might not have even realized, because we're just kind of in the moment and we're not tying it all together. But Isaiah 61, all those things that he texted me are things that come right out of Isaiah 61, when where it says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me, because the Lord has appointed or anointed me to bring good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, opening of the prison to those who are bound. This is what Jesus said he came to do.
Yes.
And these are signs of God on the move, Aslan on the move. These are signs of the kingdom advancing. And let's not go flying past that. We witnessed that on Sunday.
Yes.
We were a part of that. Let's call that what it is. All those things and those stories that we were hearing, those are miracles. Those are supernatural things, and we ought to give God glory for that, and just be so thankful we get to see him on the move in our church.
Yeah. And we get to be a part of that. I don't know how to I don't really know the words to put to this, but maybe this resonates with you, or maybe you have better words to put to it, but I just really clearly, confidently sense that the Lord is doing something really unique in our church family right now. And I also have this sense that it's just beginning, that there's just so much more to come, but it's important that I think we look back on like what he has been doing, and that gives us like confident hope for what he will continue to do. But I just am so thankful for like that prayer watch, and so like how we're getting to probably enjoy and like continue to reap fruit from that time in prayer.
Yes.
And I'm thinking back on like some of the prayer nights that we've had this year and how powerful those have been, and how like we're seeing some of the like fruit and some of the words and some of the themes that have been like spoken by God to us for our church family. Like we're starting to like see some of that just like flicker and like grow, and I'm just like so excited for like all that I see him doing, and how I can just sense that like it's just the beginning. Like there's still so much more to come.
Come on. Yes.
So do you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. I do. I think that there is something that the Lord has started in us in this season that I think it, like you said, just beginning. This is not over. This wasn't like a spring sermon series kind of thing. This is like bigger than that. This is a season in the life of our church that I think the Lord is wanting to do something, and I think that what he wants to do is going to I think it's going to be generational. So I think that I think that this is going to be something that lasts beyond us, and that is shaping who we are. So, gosh, be excited about that, and lean into that, and continue to ask the Lord, what are you doing? And let's not get down off the wall. Let's stay on the wall, and continue to pray, to give him no rest, and ask him to do these things in our lives and in the lives of our church family and in this community. There are people who do not have this. They're not experiencing this, and they probably do not even know that it exists or is available to them.
Yeah, that's really exciting. In Psalm 34, the passage that you read from, it says, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together." And I was just thinking how on Sunday morning, like that is what we did, and that's what we want to continue to do. And I just have the sense, like you're saying, that like what the Lord has been doing and what he will continue to do is going to like come through prayer and come through like staying on the wall. But I also have the sense that it's going to come through us like hearing him and being willing to like listen to him.
Yes.
So one thing I almost shared on Sunday was something that I feel like he's been speaking to me about, and something I've been sensing. And it all started in December. We got our girls a set of books, and they're really, really great. So if you have like kids, probably like any age under 7, I would say, they're board books. So they're like intended for toddlers, but like I cry when I read them. So they're like so good for any age. But the whole series is like, what are hands for? What are ears for? What are eyes for? What are mouths for? And it basically, the book in a board book will do like a biblical theology of like what God made that for. So like the hands one, it's like, okay, God gave you hands, and what are hands for? And it helps you understand like how God originally designed your hands to be used. And then it walks you through like how Jesus used his hands to serve. And then it walks you through how ultimately like on the cross, his hands were stretched out and like he took your sin. And so because of that, whenever you disobey with your hands, you can with your hands ask God to forgive you. And so it does that, like walks you through the whole thing. And then but for Christmas we got the girls the one that is what are ears for. And so it opens like all the books do, like God gave you ears, and like what are ears for? And then it talks about all the like wrong ways we can use our ears, but ultimately how Jesus used his ears to like hear the Father and obey the Father. And it just like, when I read that book for the first time, I was just like blown away that like God gave us ears and we can hear him. Like how crazy is that like he speaks to us and we can hear him, and like that is what our ears are for. And I've just since then that has just like planted in me this just like longing and desire and like eagerness to like be really sensitive to what he's saying and to like listen to him. And in doing that and like being more aware that he does speak, like I'm like looking for him to speak and like sensing it so much more often, not in these just like crazy big ways, but in like a lot of really small whispers that feel like really intimate and really close and really special to me. And that has been like so life-changing, that like my ears that like are being used for like what they're made for, and it's so special when he speaks. And that's what I want for more people, is for like us to all as a church family know that like God gave us ears to hear from him, and that he really speaks, and he's like on the move in so many crazy ways, and he wants us to be like sensitive to his voice and aware of his voice and quick to obey whatever he's calling us to. And I just know that like as we do that, like our whole church family will just like come alive more and more to like what he's doing and how he's working.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I love that invitation to us to be listeners. How do we do that? I'm not asking you to answer that question. That's a rhetorical question. But I will ask you this question. Like, what are some ways that you find that are helpful to be able to use your ears to hear him? Like what are some things that you have to do in order for you to be attentive to his voice?
So two things come to mind. The first one is like starting my day in like a purposeful posture of like trying to listen to him. And so that for me, that looks like waking up before my kids do, and taking time to like be quiet and just like listen to his voice. And that for me just kind of sets the day, and like inclining my ear towards him for that day. And if I can like hear from him early in the morning and like be like abide with him, or like align my heart with him to start the day, it feels just like more connected throughout the whole rest of the day. So that has been really helpful. But then another thing that like kind of feels counterintuitive, but at the end of the day, as I'm falling asleep, I've been trying to practice like thinking in hindsight through my day, and trying to ask myself, like, when did I feel like I felt God's nearness? Or when did I feel like I heard that like still small voice like speaking to me or reminding me or something? And if I can like in hindsight remember and recall when I felt that in the like in the day that I just had, it just like makes me more like aware and sensitive to what that possibility will look like for the next day. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense.
So I feel like it just helps me like practice reminding myself, like, what did that feel like and how did I get there? And like, just, yeah, God did speak to me. And that makes me like more eager and aware of like sensing it when it happens again the next time.
Yeah. And I'll speak totally out of my realm of understanding here. Yeah, but how about that for a preface? I don't really know what I'm talking about. However, I did read a book called The Other Half of Church.
Yes.
And it's using brain science to think about how to be like a fully brained church.
Yep.
And it talks about rewiring our brains, neural pathways. This is how, just like God gave you ears, he gave you a brain that has these pathways that form in your mind. That's how you're learning things. It's how things become patterns in your lives, for good or for bad. And what you're doing is you are forming these neural pathways in your brain that are you're like paving like a super highway for thoughts of gratitude and joy and hearing from the Father.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that you kind of describing waking up and you thinking more of that, it's because you are like you're doing like road improvements, on those super highways in your brain. And we have to do that. And unfortunately, I was sitting here thinking about like how last night I was not doing what you were doing. I was singing this song by REM, that was a band in the 90s. It was a song called Night Swimming, because somehow that got in my head. And so then I had to watch it on YouTube. And then like, that was the last thing I did before I went to bed. And so that's what I was thinking about. And I say that sort of jokingly, but if that's the way I'm going to wire my brain to just kind of like let the internet disciple me all the way up until I go to sleep, it shouldn't surprise me when I wake up at 4 a.m. with anxious thoughts. And, you know, so I say that to say, wow, like I need to pay attention to the ways I'm letting my brain be wired.
Yeah.
And I think to answer the question I asked you a few moments ago, like, I think we have to like turn down the volume on all the other things. Like if we're just like being inundated constantly with all kinds of voices coming at us, I think we're going to have a hard time hearing the voice of the Father.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about how like I was laying on the couch reading a book last night, and one of my daughters was showing, I don't know, there was a video playing on someone's phone across the way. I couldn't see it, but I could hear someone, and I was just thinking like, wow, that voice sounds like every influencer ever. Like they all have the way they talk, the inflection in their voice, whatever product it was that she was hawking right there. Like I was like, wow, that's the voice of our world.
Wow.
You know, like I can hear it from here, you know, like, and I just, the more we turn down those voices, I think the more we'll hear from our Heavenly Father.
Yes.
And I don't say that like, you know, in a judgmental way. I say that in a very confessional way. Like I've let too much of that just even enter into my own life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm the same way. Like I feel like very much a beginner in a lot of these practices and in these experiences, but even in my like early like feeble attempts at like trying to do this, like the Lord has met me. And so I just encourage everyone with that. Like if this feels like intimidating or new or scary or like I don't know how to do that or I might be bad at it, like God is so beyond gracious and generous to like meet us in our pathetic attempts. Like we are bad at it, but like he wants to speak to us, and so like he will, even when we're not like perfectly practiced in these things.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging. All right, I think that's all. You got anything else?
No, I mean, I'm excited about Easter coming up. We've been talking about Lent, and so I'm excited about Easter. I guess today we're recording, it's April 1st, and so Easter is this month, and I'm excited about Good Friday. We got something really special planned that a lot of hard work has gone into, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, and you're just going to have to come
and see
and experience it on Good Friday, and then Easter Sunday will just be an awesome celebration. So.
Yeah. So be thinking about who might you invite, who might come with you to those gatherings. All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
See ya.